What you just experienced was exactly what happens when you consume information online without thinking. Every single day you scroll through hundreds of posts, articles, videos, and headlines. You absorb information constantly. But how often do you stop and ask, is this true? Who made this? And why are they telling me this? Good evening, good morning, and good night, everyone. I am Marcbryant Dulanas, presenting the topic of the overview of information literacy resources worldwide by UNESCO. So before we get started with our video, I would like you to watch this video and observe what information does this person try to give us and how they delivered it.
Hoy! I will show you something! You see here from the Facebook forum? I will read to you. Teenager dies from cancer because of using phone for 20 hours. You heard that? Die from cancer from the phone. This is what I'm telling to you every day. Every day you're using your phone. You wake up phone, you sleep phone, you eat phone. Your phone is not gonna give you anything. Yan ang sinasabi ko sa inyo. Mamamatay kayo dahil sa cellphone na yan. Please naman, anak, grow up. Grow up and see the beauty of life. Stop using your phone. Cancer, anak, cancer. You want to die of cancer? I don't want. Okay, you wake up and listen. One day when you all realize, here is because of your that phone. Magdasal naman kayo, anak, please naman.
So what you just saw was a person who was probably not information literate. And you might think that information literacy was just, identifying fake news. Well, you'd be wrong because it goes way deeper than that. In fact, only 87.1% of our survey of 209 respondents know the definition of information literacy. Now, by the way, the context of this was in the Philippines. And yes, it's not only 100%, it doesn't say 100%, which means there is a remaining of 12.9% who still doesn't know what information literacy even is. So what is information literacy in the first place? Information literacy is the ability to find, evaluate, and use information appropriately. So what is finding information? Finding information is knowing what to look and how to look for information. It is by using search engines, libraries, ebooks, and other credible verified sources you can find. Here's an example that highlights the importance of finding information properly. According to ScienceDirect.com in 2016, with their study titled Students' Use of Wikipedia as an Academic Resource, Patterns of Use and Perceptions of Usefulness, 87.5 students report using Wikipedia for their academic work, with 24% of these considering it very useful. Now, you may think you are probably guilty of this because we all probably have used Wikipedia at some point in our lives, because we're still kids and we still don't know what technology is. And you might think that this study is from 2016, so why is it relevant till today, 2026? Because according to the College of State and Island University, the origins of information literacy was coined in 1974 by Paul Zerkowski. So it started way back then, a very long time. And according to the University of Wisconsin, Whitewater, information literacy competency standards for higher education were adopted by ACRL in the 2000s. So, Since if it started in 19 if the term started in 1974 and it was being taught in the 2000s, why in the why in the world were these students from 2016 still using Wikipedia as their academic source, even though they are being taught with information literacy? Well, that's simple because while it is being taught, knowledge alone does not guarantee that people will apply it in practice. So, next step in information literacy is to evaluate. What is evaluating information? Evaluating information is judging information by its accuracy, credibility, currency, purpose, and completeness. So, for example, a student checks his work for his term paper for his upcoming research defense in the practical research subject. So, that's an example I made up. So, here's a real life example you might have heard here in the Philippines. So, the Bukana Bridge. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Bukana Bridge. So, what really made this bridge special? Because last year, according to Bongbong Marcos, construction of the bridge was approved during his term in July 2022, and construction started in late 2023. Alright. He also said that this is one of the four major projects that our legacy projects, we will be finishing in Davao and its environs. Nothing really wrong, right? Okay, let's dig deeper. According to the PIA, or Philippine Information Agency, wow, it is said in their website that the entire bridge construction project was initiated and completed during the administration of President Marcos. Nothing wrong, right? Because, it's an official website, so it's a credible source, right? Well, that's where you're wrong, because I'll give you time to think. What administration is the PIA ran by? That's right. The PIA, or the Philippine Information Agency, is ran by the Office of the President, which is currently the Marcos administration. So that is like saying a student is peer reviewing himself during a group activity. In fact, this was fact checked by Rappler.com in 2025, saying here in 2018 during Chinese President Xi Jinping's state visit to the Philippines, the Duterte administration signed 29 deals with China, including the exchange of letters for the Bukana Bridge project, signed on November 2018. It is also backed up by a Chinese website, here Embassy of the People's Republic of China in the Republic of the Philippines. Here it is said the Republic of the Philippines was signed an agreement in which the Chinese government will grant approximately 60 million US dollars for the Philippines Davao River project on December 9, 2020. Rodrigo Duterte's daughter, Sara Duterte, Vice President Sara Duterte, even commented on this, saying it was made known at the time to former President Duterte that the bridge is unfunded at siya ay naghanap ng paraan para mabigyan yung pondo yung bridge. So sometimes the best source you can have is history. So let's put President BBM's claim into the evaluation criteria of information literacy. Is President BBM's claim accurate? Not so much. It is misleading. Can President BBM's claim be trusted? Yeah, is he trusted? Nah, no. It is biased. And did this happen last year or million years ago. Nah, this is very current. In fact, this happened last year on December 2025. Yeah, it happened. And what do you think is the purpose of why BBM did such act? Simple. It is public perception. And is his claim complete or incomplete? It is incomplete. That's right. So, next part of information literacy is using information appropriately. Now, this is very important. Why? Using information appropriately is by using information ethically and citing sources while you share that information, if you're going to share information. Because you can't really own something that isn't yours, right? Just like what, you know, president did. You know what I'm talking about. So here's an example. While I was presenting the video, I used, that text source, Rappler.com 2025, or I just screenshotted the official website with the important details, the author, date, and everything, the title, the logo, and with the statement I would like to convey. And of course, I use this with for educational purposes to share to you guys. So, teaching isn't just, presenting information to you, right? It is also applying it to our daily lives. So, let's put your knowledge to the test. Here, Marcbryant is wearing pants right now, according to Squidward. Really? Am I really wearing pants right now, guys? Am I wearing pants right now? Not really. I'm kind of wearing shorts. So let's try to, test this claim by Squidward. So, how do you find information? Do you find information from my neighbor? I don't know. From my brother who is at the bedroom sleeping? No. You find information through me or you. Why me? Because, of course, Squidward is referring to me. Because I'm wearing pants. But in fact, I'm wearing shorts. Or even you, because you yourself just saw that I'm wearing shorts. Am I right? Am I wrong? I'm right. So let's put Squidward's claim into the evaluating information criteria. Is Squidward's claim accurate? Not so much. Is fake? Is Squidward's claim really credible? Can he be trusted? No, it's pretty low. The low trustworthiness. Is it very current? Well, he did say right now. So yes, it is very current. What is the purpose of this? Well, it is to mislead people, of course, because I'm wearing shorts. And is it complete or incomplete? It is incomplete. So, moving on to our last part of information literacy. How do you use information appropriately? Well, that depends on you. How will you use it ethically? How will you share it? And will you cite sources? Of course you will, because you are an information literate person. And, as I stated last time, that we as people often, drink information out of media, even without checking if it is true or not. And this can lead sometimes to what we call as fake news. And that will be explained deeper by my partner, Christine Tong.
So, as what we've seen in the video, this situation is very common in our country. Many of us youngsters hear our parents, our friends, our family members share about the things they see and learn from social media, often believing it immediately without analyzing and evaluating whether the information they see is true or not. And this directly connects to what Marcbryant discussed earlier about information literacy, especially the importance of evaluating information first before accepting it or sharing it. A similar example would be when people come across posts claiming that a certain food can cure serious illness like cancer. For example, there was a viral post circulating around Facebook back in 2019 claiming that bitter melon, or also known as ampalaya, can kill all cancer cells or completely cure cancer. However, health organizations like Cancer Research UK, which is known for their innovative research about cancer, states that there is no single food that can cure cancer. Although maintaining a healthy and balanced diet may help reduce the risk, this does not necessarily mean that these foods can serve as a replacement for actual medical care, which makes this a false claim. So, as shown in the example, this kind of post uses eye-catching images, bold statements, and emotional or persuasive wording such as can treat cancer, which makes the statement sound hopeful or convincing, especially to those people who are desperate for treatment because who doesn't want to get better, right? So, because of this, many people immediately believe and share the post without verifying whether the claim is actually supported by health experts or by scientific evidence. So, and that is why information literacy is more than just spotting fake news. It's also about learning how to question the information that we see itself. So we can start by simply asking three questions. First is, who created this information? Is the source reliable, qualified, or trustworthy? Is there enough evidence to support the claim, such as asking whether are there reliable references provided, facts or studies? Why was this information posted? Is it meant to inform, persuade, scare, entertain, or just to gain attention? Anyway, the reason why this is so common in the first place is because of where we're getting the information, and many Filipinos nowadays heavily rely on the internet, one of it being social media, a major source of news information. Filipinos can easily just browse platforms such as X app, or formerly known as the Twitter app, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Reddit, and so many more instead of just using traditional news outlets like the newspapers, radio, television, and books. Because of this, information spreads very quickly, since anyone can post content on these platforms, not all information are trustworthy or accurate. In fact, according to Simon Kemp, a chief analyst of Data Reportal, states that there were about 97.5 million social media users in the Philippines, which suggests that social media platforms are widely used by Filipinos for information or communication. And this is further backed up by our survey asking 209 respondents how often they use the following sources to find information. So, as we can see, the internet is the most commonly used source, with 199 respondents relying on it for information, which is then followed closely by social media with 179 respondents using platforms like Facebook, TikTok, YouTube to access information. Meanwhile, more traditional or interpersonal sources are used less frequently. News sources were used by 132 respondents, friends and family by 119, teachers by 95, and books, while the books had the lowest number with only 70 respondents, which is kind of sad. And the results show that most people today prefer fast and easily accessible digital sources. And I think most of us here can relate to that because nowadays when we do our research, we use online sources instead of just using articles like hard copy of articles. I mean, so yeah. So while the internet may give us quicker access to information, it also increases the risk of us encountering misinformation because, like I said, not everything posted online is true. One misleading post can shape what millions choose to believe, which is why being information literate becomes more important than ever in helping us to think critically and make responsible decisions online. To further discuss why information literacy truly matters in today's digital age, I'll now give the stage to my teammate Arian Uayan.
Good day, everyone. Today, I will discuss why media and information literacy, or MIL, matters in today's digital world. Every day, people receive information from social media, websites, online news, and digital platforms. However, not all information online is true or reliable. Because of this, media and information literacy is important to help people think critically, verify information, and become responsible media users. In this presentation, we will focus on three major challenges. We have the spread of fake news on social media, online scams, and lastly, language barriers. First, spread of fake news on social media. Today, information can quickly become viral online. However, viral posts are always not true. Many people immediately believe and share information without checking reliable sources first. Because of the lack of fact checking habits, fake news, edited videos, misleading stories, or content can easily influence public opinions and create confusion. This picture shows example of how fake news spreads online. Social media allows information to circulate very quickly. Once people share false information repeatedly, many others begin believing it without evidence. This is dangerous because fake news can affect people's opinions, emotions, and decisions. Next, we have online scams. Today, scammers use social media and online platforms to deceive people through fake giveaways, fake online sellers, and scam messages pretending to be official accounts. Many victims fall for these scams because they immediately trust suspicious messages or offers without verifications. Here you can see many examples of online scams. According to an article from the Philippine Star, more than half of cybercrime cases in 2023 were online scams. The Philippine government, through the Cybercrime Investigating and Coordinating Center, is prepared to take action against these major social medias. such as Facebook, Instagram, and X or known as Twitter, if these platforms allow scammers or fake online sellers to operate on their sites. This article highlights how serious online scams have become in the Philippines because many Filipinos rely heavily on social media and online platforms. Scammers can easily spread fake news, fraudulent links, and deceptive messages. The Philippines is considered one of the countries highly affected by online misinformation and digital scams because of the large numbers of internet and social media users. This situation shows why media information literacy is important. People must learn how to verify information, identify suspicious online activity, and think critically before trusting online content or transactions. And lastly, we have language barriers. The issue is not simply about English versus Tagalog. Instead, understanding depends on language familiarity, dialect preference, and how clearly information is communicated. Some people may understand English better because they are more exposed to it through education, social media, and online content. This example shows how language and communication style can affect understanding. Some audience may struggle to fully understand news reports when unfamiliar terms, formal language, or unclear explanations are used. For example, the comment of the news post thought that they were saying curse words because in their dialect, the word yate is a curse word. So they thought that this post or news was just satire. So, this can lead to misunderstanding or confusion, especially when if information is delivered too quickly or with technical vocabulary. But if the language used in the news was English, would you guys still misread it? That's why, according to the study, language barriers are obstacles that hinder effective communication between individuals or groups who speak different languages. The study explains that language barriers can lead to misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and communication breakouts or breakdowns. This means that when information is not communicated clearly, audience may struggle to fully understand the message. This study shows that many Filipinos use English online because of their exposure to English in education, social media, websites, and digital communication. The table also shows that English is commonly used in online platforms, making many users more familiar and comfortable with English content. According to this table, 96.7% of websites in the Philippines use English as their main content language. This may explain why many Filipinos are more familiar with English and digital media and online communication. Because people constantly interact English online, they become more comfortable understanding English content compared to formal Tagalog used in some news reports. This is also supported by our own survey results, which indicates that 161 people understood English better than 15 understood Cebuano and 29 understood Tagalog. This suggests that many respondents are more familiar with English because of their exposure to English in education, social media, and online platforms. Overall, our finding shows that media and information literacy is important in helping people critically understand information, avoid misinformation and scams, and improve communication in today's digital world. So, if some Filipinos struggle to understand other languages used in dialect and media, where do they get their information from? Well, let's ask my fellow member, Jethro Betanio.
Thank you, Arian. Now, now that we've seen how language barriers can affect access to information, it's also just as important to look at where people actually get information today. Nowadays, instead of counting how many people can use the internet, it'd be faster to count who isn't using the internet instead. You and me, di ba gagamit ba tayo internet? But obviously, we wouldn't be the only ones. But would you actually be surprised by just how many people use it? Well, according to Simon Kemp in 2026, more than 6 billion people worldwide use the internet, representing about 73.2% of the world's population. That means there are 6 billion people around the world using the internet to surf, to search, and even to create content. Para mas masabdan just how big the number actually is, I want you all to take a look at the timeline. This graph shows how global internet usage has grown over time. Starting from the early 1990s, there was actually still about 2 to 3 million people online, pretty much incomparable to 6 billion people. In 1991, that was when the first ever website was made. And during the late 1990s and the early 2000s, the growth was still relatively slow, but people still had access to the internet, even if it was limited. However, it began to steadily increase in the mid 2000s as home computers became way more common. After 2010, the number of users drastically increased because of the spread of smartphones, mobile data, and the existence of social media, which made internet access much easier and way more popular. By the 2020s, the growth started to slow down slightly because access started to become more saturated, but you guys get the point. So, overall, the graph shows how the internet evolved from a small, specialized network into a global system used by almost the entire world. Now, if you look at this graph, we would see the countries with the greatest number of people using the internet. We can see that China is top one and all of the rest of the countries, but what we're really focusing on is in the Philippines. As you can see, the global trend can also be seen in the Philippines, where it's reported that approximately 98 million Filipinos, or about 83.8% of the population, were active internet users as of late 2025, and that a total of 137 million cellular mobile connections were active in the Philippines as of late 2025. That's just the same. Quick fun fact, by the way, if you all know, the population of the Philippines only totals to about 117 million. Knowing that there's about 137 million cellular mobile connections active, I think that might mean that there are signals coming from above. Now, these findings actually support our survey of 200 respondents that we conducted, where 199 of them used the internet as their source of information, with social media being the second. And there, of course, there are still others with decent votes, but the internet and social media are predominantly the main sources of information that people use. And if the internet filled to the brim with false information is where Filipinos get their sources, then we have to ask, are Filipinos truly information literate enough? My partner, Stephanie Paclibar, will be explaining that part.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation, Jethro. Now, let us talk about how Filipinos information literate. But before I delve into that, information literate means how well people can find, understand, and check if information is true or false. Because in a world full of online content, this skill is very important. Next is a question in our survey that asks about how confident are you in recognizing accurate information from fake or misleading information. As you can see here, most respondents chose levels 3 and 4, which suggests that many of them feel moderately to highly confident in their ability to evaluate information. However, there are still 38 respondents who rated themselves at 5, indicating a smaller group that feels very confident, and 10 respondents at level 2, showing that some of them still struggle with this skill. Now, let us compare it to a study conducted by Fajardo and Ateneo de Naga University, Philippines. This chart shows the level of information literacy in Fajardo's 2022 study, when students were actually tested on fact-checking. Most scored at only beginning level, followed by emerging. This means that they still struggled to verify claims in practice. This suggests that while most of them while most of them believe that they can identify correct information, their actual skills tell a different story. Only a small number reach the proficient and advanced level. Now, to back up the data that I have shown earlier, the 2024 Functional Literacy, Education, and Mass Media Survey results show that 90% or 9 out of 10 Filipinos aged 5 years and over have basic literacy. This translates to approximately 92.7 million individuals aged 5 years and over who can read, write, and compute out of the estimated 103.46 million individuals in the same age group. So, before I finish my part, I'm going to tell you what the gap in the data of the survey and the study conducted by Fajardo is. So, it is the difference between what people think they can do and what they can actually do. Basically, it is about perception versus competency. In our survey, many respondents said that they are confident in spotting real and fake information, especially those who chose levels 3 and 4. However, in a study conducted by Fajardo, most of them are still in the beginning and emerging level, which means their skills are not yet strong. This shows that even if people feel confident, it does not always mean that they are good at it. Some may be arrogant in their ability to judge information. So, what does this mean for us? It shows that improving information literacy is not just about access to information, but it is about education, critical thinking, and awareness. Because in a world full of information, the real power lies in knowing what to trust. So, I'm going to pass the stage again to Jethro Betanio to further, no, to end our presentation.
Now, this isn't just a problem in the Philippines. Everything we've ever discussed can be applied worldwide. Outdated information, clickbait headlines, misleading images, edited media, fake news. Across the world, people are facing the same issue, being constantly exposed to information and not having the skills to verify it. The question it no longer lingers with what content they're seeing, it's why they're even seeing it in the first place. It's about how the world as a whole is able to think critically in the age of digital information. I mean, sure, yeah, the internet's so useful because you can search things up immediately. You can find information you've never even heard before. The internet has given everyone a voice, but you see, it's never guaranteed that the voices will always speak the truth. This is all for a presentation. Thank you.